Okay, so welcome to the episode we're going to do on fire making in the desert. Really though, the principles of fire making are the same wherever you are. The key is, remember, preparation, preparation, preparation. There is nothing worse than putting all the effort in to maybe, whether it's with a friction fire or bone drill or whatever it is, you know, to get a little heat and an ember and or a spark or whatever it is, and then you haven't got the rest of the fire ready to go. So preparation is key. If you're in wet climates, get cover, get out of the wind. Starting fire in adverse conditions is just about practice. But before we do anything, the most important thing to remember with fire is a fire triangle, the three elements that all fires need. And first of all is heat. You gotta have a heat source. And you can generate heat in many ways. You can generate it from the heat of the sun. You can generate it through friction. You gotta have that heat. Second, you need oxygen. You've got to have oxygen to allow that flame to ignite. And thirdly, you need fuel. Okay, something that's actually then going to burn. If you starve a fire of any of these three elements, it's gonna go out. So if you've only got oxygen and fuel, you know, we've got oxygen and fuel here, there's no fire. You know, you've got to have all three: heat, oxygen, and fuel. So remember that when you're preparing your fire. First of all, you need good tinder. Tinder is anything that's going to take that initial spark or that initial focal point of heat or that initial ember. It's the first point of contact for fuel, for heat, that you're going to start your fire with. You want this to be as thin and as dry and as fibrous as possible. Dry bird nests are great. You want to then really ruffle them up so you get all those tiny little fibers that are going to take that initial spark. Without good tinder, you're never going to start a fire. If you try and start a fire straight onto bigger fuel like this, it's just not going to burn. You know, you have to build your way up. When you're in a desert environment like this, that's easy because everything is dried and parched. But if you're in a jungle or you're in wet and mountainous climates, you've got to be smarter. You've got to maybe peel the bark off dead wood to get to the drier wood inside. Don't be going for any green wood. Green wood has a lot of moisture in it. It's not going to burn. Okay, so this is the first thing you need, good tinder. Then you need good kindling, and again, smaller, like I always think the size of your little finger is a good indicator. This sort of stuff. And again, a good way to judge whether kindling is good to burn is to break it. And if it sounds like the crackle of a fire, like that, you know it's going to be good for your fire. If it's just green and it kind of goes like that, it's not going to be good. So you want this crackle. And that's going to be good kindling. So that's your second thing, good kindling. And then the final thing, once you've got your kindling going, you need a bigger fuel. Anything bigger, logs, you know, one of these would be great. Here, ultimately, if I was spending the night here, you know, I know I'd build a fire under here and I've got a good fuel source. I'd actually probably start the fire right down the end where it touches the ground. And eventually, you're going to get this smouldering. Even if you fall asleep, you know you're going to still have an ember there that you can restart your fire from if you need to. Now we're ready to go. But how do you actually start that initial fire? And that is the part that is always tricky. People spend days and days and days as a group trying to start fires. You know, it's hard. If you don't do it and you've never been taught it, it's hard. But there are many different ways of doing it. I'm not going to go into detail on this lesson all the different types of friction fire. We're going to do that in other episodes when we're in the jungle and stuff. But for now, we're going to just show you a couple of simple ways. First of all, imagine one of your team has got some glasses. You can use the broken glass or the actual glass lens themselves to focal the sun into a narrow point and generate heat. Dark glasses aren't going to work, but if we use one of the glasses here, one from the crew. Okay, so look, glasses like this, and you can see, look at my hand there. See that hot spot? And all that is the sun. So we can use the lens from the glasses, and it focuses and concentrates that beam of light onto a little spot on my hand. I can even though it's only 10 in the morning here, I can feel the heat. You know, certainly by midday out here, that sun is going to be powerful enough. If I hold it and I'm patient enough, that will start a fire on this dried grass. But like I say, you don't want to do all this effort and get a flame and then you haven't got your kindling or your other fuel ready. That's why you got to be prepared. Preparation, so key. So that would generate enough heat to start fire. You can even reflect the inside of Coke cans, polish it up, and that will reflect like a mirror and generate heat. There are even people who made fire out of ice. So they've taken the ice and they've made it into the shape of like a lens, and they've used that to concentrate the sun. Bamboo is a great resource to start fire because you can create so much friction fast with it. I would say one of the key skills of fire lighting, beyond persistence, is actually ingenuity. But what I'm going to show you today is a way you actually do it with a fire steel. If I had to take one piece of survival equipment with me into the wild, I'd probably first of all pick a good blade, actually a good knife, maybe a small machete. But beyond that, I would say a fire steel, because with fire you can do so much. It's not only going to keep you warm at night, it allows you, if you're wet, to dry out clothes, it allows you to cook food, it allows you to boil water. Boiling water in the wild is critical. You can't just be drinking water where you find it from streams or stagnant pools. You're more than likely going to get sick. So you've got to boil the water. For that you need fire. Fire, you can make tools. You can deter predators. So the ability to make fire and carry a fire steel like this is, I would say, a key weapon in a survivor's arsenal. The reason I like fire strikers like this is that they work even when they're wet. You know, you take some matches into the wild and you get wet, it starts raining, you have to do a river crossing, it's the end of the matches. Same with lighters, but the fire steel like this is going to work even when it's wet. And all this does is make that nice and simple for you, creates that spark. But it's a spark that we're going to put into this dry tinder. The tinder's going to ignite, and then we've got to be fast and we've got to be ready with the kindling. The final thing I'll say before we actually light this is build your fire off the ground. Many times I've tried to start fires in swampy areas, and if it's just wet underneath, it's going to put the fire out. So build it up a little bit, and then you're good to go. Of course, the final thing is be very careful with forest fires. Yeah, don't mess around with those. So always protect the area you're going to do it with. Ideally, if you've got rocks, you can put rocks around it, make a fire pit. That protects the fire. We're going to light this, and we're going to put it out pretty fast because we're in a super dry area here. But what I want to do today was just show you the simple principle of fire making and how to use that fire striker. With this, the key is hold one hand steady. You know, people go like this and they end up getting the spark and they put it out with their hands. Hold one hand steady and the other hand pulls and creates the spark. And there we go, we have fire. And then I'll be putting the kindling on top of it and building it up. People ask often about the best shape to build a fire. You know, people do crisscross ones and square fires. They've actually proven the most efficient shape for building a fire is that TP one. You know, so it looks kind of like this. It's as wide at the bottom as it is high, and it's like a triangle, and that allows the heat to rise and the oxygen to flow through it. Final tip, never smother the fire once you got it going. I always think it's like children. If you put too much on, if you smother children, it kills their spirit. Same with a fire, don't smother it. Give it room and time to breathe with oxygen, and then the fire will look after you late into your night, and just like kids, late into your life. So there you go, I hope this helped. Little masterclass on our fire preparation and how to light a fire with a fire striker.